Hi everyone, we are back and today we are painting a swan reflection. For this you'll need your primary colours, a white and a black. You'll also need some funky brushes. Now it's up to you what brushes you had. I'm just going for a mop brush and two round brushes. One's a bit bigger than the other. This one's great for detail, and also a palette knife. But remember, make it your own. Use whatever you have to hand. Now let's go. Now I'm going to do like a nice little tealy background, I guess. You can do whatever colour you like, but I'm just going to go for like a nice teal, off tealish colour, I guess. So to mix that, I'm going to just use my blue like so. I'm going to take quite a lot of it because we are going to do quite a bit of background work. We've got an empty sheet. I actually spilt the paint before we started. That's why this is like this. I do that a lot. Let's wipe this palette knife and get on with mixing this teal. So to mix teal, we're just going to add a little bit of our yellow to this blue. Now, also, I want to dim the, desaturate the colour without losing the vibrancy, if I can speak. So what I'm going to do is actually add orange, which is blue's complementary. So I'm going to go in with another scoop of yellow, just to counteract the amount of red in there. Let's give it a mix and see what happens. So you see how nice that is now. It's gorgeous. I'm actually going to go in with a bit more yellow and give that a mix. I don't want a green. Essentially what we are mixing is a blue-green. There we go. Look at that. It's absolutely stunning. I love it. I'm going to add some white to it. We don't want a background that's going to be this colourful, or do you? Maybe you do. I want it to be a little bit more muted, a little bit murky. So let's go for it and add some white. And all I'm going to do is just tap my brush into the white paint whenever I want some more white added into my background. I'm not going to go ahead and mix lots of different puddles of paint at this point. Okay, that is a nice colour. I think I might add a little bit more white to it though. Again, this is your painting, so you can decide how much white you're adding, if you're adding any white at all. Maybe you're going to add a bit of black. There's so many ways you could go with this. This is just a background colour. So just think, what background do you want your swan to be on? Okay, I quite like that. It's a lovely colour. I might actually just add a touch of black now I've mentioned it. Let's just dim it down a little bit. The trick is just a little bit at a time until you're happy with your colour. I'm happy with that. Let's get painting. So I'm going to be super lazy now and not mix up another light. I'm just going to dip my brush into the white paint even when I need to. I'm just going to dampen my brush. It's nice and damp now. I'm going to dip that in. And what I want to do, I want to create a nice smooth blend where it becomes a little bit lighter in the centre. I'm actually going to tap my brush into a bit of water just to help with the flow of the acrylic, because sometimes it gets quite stiff. So just horizontally back and forth. You'll notice I do put masking tape down if I use acrylic paper. This is because it gives it a nice frame and also stops me painting on the table. When you are blending, you just want to be ever so gentle. You don't need to press on too hard unless you want some nice brush strokes in there. Entirely up to you. I'm actually going to dip my brush in water, mix that in a bit of water now. You can always mix water into your acrylic. And just bring that down a bit further. You see how easier that is just to move around. So we're now meeting towards the centre, like so. Actually just picked up some of the blue paint that I spilt earlier. Forgot that was there. And now I'm just going to dip my brush in the paint and in the white paint and just get that in the centre. You see how it's not a dramatic shift at all. I'm not mixing it. I'm being lazy. And we're just going horizontally left to right. When most of the paint is off the brush and we've got that nice centre bit down, we can start blending this in a bit smoother. You see how it's just a bit blocky at the minute? So let's just go in between the two, and we can carry that up if we like, and then carry it back down, like so. Lovely. Now we have our background. Once you're happy with that, let's get painting the swan. I quite like the brush strokes through it, so I'm going to leave it like that. If you want a softer blend, just be quite gentle and place more paint down and just gently blend that in. Because I got a thin amount of paint on, it's going to really show up the brush strokes, but I want it to dry quite quick. Because we're on a tutorial, I need to show you this without having to stop and dry my paper. So let's mix that brush in the water. Right, that brush is now clean. Make sure you leave your brushes nice and clean once you've finished. Don't leave them in the water. Don't leave them to harden outside the water. The acrylic will harden and attack the brush. So make sure they're nice and clean. Just my tip if you want to make sure that you have your brushes for as long as you possibly can. Let's get painting this swan, shall we? So first of all, we're going to mix up some colours for this swan. Now, swans may look white when we look at them, but we're going to mix up some little values with this swan using our black and white. And what our aim is to paint a swan on the top half here. And on the bottom half here, we're going to paint the reflection of the swan, which is going to be a little bit less vibrant. It's going to be a little bit hazy, but it's on still water. So we want to ensure that the swan at the top is more vibrant than the one at the bottom. In fact, before we get painting the swan, let's pop in our line for where the swan is going to sit. You might want a smaller brush for this. I'm just going to use my round brush. I'm going to dip that in a bit of water. I'm going to just take some of this paint that we mixed earlier and just loosely sketch where I want that little horizon line to be. We can blend this out as well. But it's a nice guideline for us. If you want to blend it out, just take a clean brush and you can just give it a wiggle whilst it's still wet there. Just spin that line out, like so. I'll probably leave mine quite prominent so that you can see the line. Perfect, that will do for now. You can always touch this up later. Let's get painting the swan. So what we're going to need now is a few values of high values and low values. So let's take 3 scoops of white. Let's add a tiny touch of black to one of these and give it a mix. And you'll see that that's quite dark, isn't it? Perfect, that's what we want. Now, using what's left on our palette knife, let's just mix that into the white underneath. And that one's a little bit lighter. What's left on our palette knife, we're going to mix it into the one at the bottom. You can do this with a paintbrush too, if you prefer using the paintbrush. And then, of course, we've got our white. I'm just going to add a bit more white to that one. That's better. Perfect. That should do us for the swan for now. So first of all, we want to sketch the swan in. We're not painting a scone. You want to use a little bit of water, place that on your palette, and let's just mix in a bit of this darker value. This is the darkest light that we have. You see how that's nice and runny now. Let's just sketch in the shape of the swan. So you can follow me if you like. In fact, let me draw this out in shapes so you can actually see what I'm doing here. So this sort of oval with a little bit of a point at the end, this is going to be the swan's body. You might have a triangle under here where his tail is going to sit, like so. And we might also have a little circle for the top of his head there, where his head's going to sit. Maybe I'll make that bigger. And then a little triangle for his beak as well. Maybe I'm just going to make this a bit bigger actually now. Now I'm sketching it in, and then sort of like a little S. curved shape going on here. Don't worry, your swan doesn't have to be perfect straight away. It doesn't have to be the right size at this point, because we can make it bigger. We can adjust it at this stage whilst we're sketching it out. So we're just gonna get some nice little feathers going on here. I'm thinking my swan's quite small, but let's go for a smaller swan today. I might actually make it bigger, so actually let's go in with a bigger body there. This is just a great example that you can just adjust your paintings before you get started. So I'm doing the exact same shapes, I'm just making it bigger. Maybe even the head as well. Perfect, that's better. I prefer that shape of swan to what we had earlier. Okay, lovely. Now that we have our swan, you can have a look at these shapes that I've put down. And you can have a look at what I've done. Let me just outline them so you can really see these shapes. I've got a little triangle there. I've got a nice big oval here. And you can pause this video and just have a really good thing. A nice little circle for the belly of his neck, I guess. And then this is going to be carried up. Now I'm going to actually paint over what I've done here because I've changed the shape of my swan. So I'm just going to wash my brush. And I'm so glad I'm getting to show you this because paintings never are perfect and they shouldn't be perfect. We adjust as we go along, and it's okay to not get things right the first time around. That's why we map things out and we block in just to see, does it sit right? I can actually change this this beak here as well, like so. And artists do this all the time. Even if you see some artists put a video up on YouTube and you think, oh wow, like how did they do that so quick? And it's amazing. It's just through a lot of practice. And they've got this wrong. They probably still get things wrong all the time, but sometimes mistakes turn into something you don't expect and it works. Just blending in with my finger, that is another great tool that we have. Okay, let's reform the shape of this swan's head. Got a little bump there for his eye probably. And he's got a nice little beak. A bit more of a delicate head now. There you go, that's much better. So we've formed a shape of the swan. Now if you want at this point, you can just turn your paper around and copy this upside down. So I'm just going to take my paper off. The best thing to do is to get the shape of the swan in first, and then you don't need to worry about it, it's done. So a lot of people find that just tilting it like this helps. So you can just copy the shapes on the other side. So let's just get a bit of watery paint again and make sure it is watery and thin because we're going to paint over it. Let's just mirror what we've just done on the other side to the best of our ability. It doesn't need to look exactly the same, just needs to have the essence there of what we've just done. Because this is a reflection, it's not going to be perfect anyway. Okay, nice little circle there. And you take your time with this, you pause this video. Okay, I'm going to actually tilt my paper round upside down now to draw the head. This is where I am concentrating, like so. And again, it doesn't need to be perfect. Lovely, that will do. So now we should have two swans. We have a swan on the top. This is going to be the one that's the most vibrant, and the one that's in the water, which we're going to make sure that our paint is quite transparent and it's very desaturated. It's not going to be the very loud. Okay, so now we have our swan. I want to actually encourage you to do the one underneath first, because the way I see it, the one underneath is a rush job. We don't really need to pay much attention to it because it's underwater. It's very murky and we're just going to be really loose and messy with this one. So let's do that together and then we'll work on the one at the top. So you want your swan that's underneath, and you don't have to do it this way around if you don't want to. And what we're going to do is we're going to water down our paint. So this darkest paint that we've just mixed here, let's just mix some water into that and get painting all the dark bits where we might think the swan a little bit darker. Maybe he's got a bit of shadow. That is our swan reflection. We just did that really roughly. There's no amazing beauty to it. So now we're going to replicate what we've done underneath on top, but with thick paint that's not really watered down. And where the light bits are, they're going to be even lighter, and where the dark bits are, they're going to be a little bit lighter than these dark bits as well. Because this is shining in the sun. This is what we are seeing with our eye. It's not underwater, it's not murky, it's right there. And swans are so beautiful and bright. So let's mix up. Like so. Now let's add a bit of shadow underneath. So using the colour we used for the background, let's just add a touch of black to that and give it a mix. Let's water it down as well so it's nice and thin. And we can just start capturing some nice moments there. Where the swan, you can see the bottom of the water is picking up some of that dark shadow from the swan sitting on it. Maybe there's a little bit here for his head. Like so. And we can again blur that out with a nice clean brush. Damp, clean brush. Just softens it a little bit. And you can add that wherever you like in your painting. You can also add some lights as well. You can get some white and mix that into the mixture we just mixed. And we can get some nice light moments. But let's go in a little bit lighter than that. And maybe the water is reflecting the light a little bit. And don't be afraid to go over what we've done underneath, because this is water after all. Just using my brush to capture some moments. And I'm going to take a clean damp brush now and blend them out. Like so. You can even use your finger, which is quite nice. It's a great tool that we were born with. That usually doesn't cost us anything. And you can be quite rough with your brush if you need to move around some paint before it dries. And again, if you want to capture more darks and lights in your water, same process, you're just going to go horizontally. And with a clean damp brush, you can just shimmy them about a bit. You can use your finger to tap and blend that out too. Or drag, like so. Now I might be getting carried away now, but I'm just having fun. We'll just see what happens. If we like it, then it's a great thing that we just did it. If we don't, then we know not to do it again. You can even use a background colour as well, just to blend in between the lines. Okay, I should probably stop before I carry on. If you want to blend this out a little bit more, I've done it quite impressionistic, quite thick brush strokes. I like that. You can always blend it out. Even still now my paint's wet, I can just go ahead and give it a nice little blend to soften it up, like so. And you can blend it into your darks a bit if you want to soften them edges too. I wanted to make it quite dramatic so you could see the difference of the light and the dark. It's good practice to paint with your lights and the darks like this. I might just touch this up a little bit. See, I can't stop now. I've started something. So there it is, a really quick and easy swan on a Stillwater reflection. I hope you enjoyed this video. It was great to spend time with you again. Give this a thumbs up and subscribe if you like it.